Good morning, everyone. I'm just excited to get to talk to you guys today, and I'm just so happy and excited that we can do this virtually and continue to contact and reach out to everybody. I would like to start before I say anything else. I do want to say that I have a 2-year-old and a golden doodle who I have barricaded out of my room right now. But you might hear a scream or a bang on the door here and there. Please don't worry. They're all taken care of and are fine. Like Shani said, I am a postdoc, which means that I'm just in a year after finishing my PhD, and I'm in a training period under Dr. Gregory Jicha. I had a career shift about 5 years ago. I was working clinically as an occupational therapist, specifically with people who are aging and working in the world of dementia care. And I decided that there wasn't enough theoretical framework or interventions to help guide our clinical practice, and so I shifted gears into a research setting. So for today's talk, I want to have a couple objectives. So the objectives for today, I'd like to describe the areas of living, different things that we can do within our lifestyle to promote a cognitive health and aging, but also at a distance that we can employ right now. And I'm going to talk about some specific strategies to promote optimal cognition while we're socially distancing. For the outline, specifically, we're going to be talking about exercise, socialization, eating habits, sleep routines, and having new experiences, and how all of these areas can help with our cognitive functioning and just thinking and making sure that we're staying healthy. On that note, we're going to jump right into exercise. So with exercise, the CDC has recommended that all older adults have around 150 minutes per week of exercise. That's moderate intensity aerobic exercise. So when we say moderate intensity, what does that mean? If you are thinking about a Likert scale of 0 to 10, and 0 means you're sitting, not doing any work at all, and 10 means that it's the hardest work that you've ever done in your life, we would expect moderate exercise to be around a 5 or a 6. This means that you're breathing harder and that your heart is beating a little faster, but you're still able to talk. You probably aren't able to sing a song without having to catch your breath. So moderate exercise. If it were to go to vigorous exercise, you would probably rate that as a 7 or 8 on that Likert scale, and you'd probably only be able to say a couple words without having to catch your breath. But moderate exercise can actually be just as beneficial, if not more so, in an older population as vigorous exercise. So if we're thinking about 150 minutes a week, that can easily be broken down into 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week. So we want that total of 150, but you can get that 150 in any way that you want. It can be 30 minutes, 60 minutes, however you want to break that down. But the goal is an average of 150. So when we're thinking about exercise, why is aerobic exercise so important? Well, it increases oxygen and blood flow to the brain. And blood flow and oxygen help the brain grow, and it helps it function really well. The blood brings really strong nutrients from your diet and things that your body can help regulate to help your brain work better. So by increasing the aerobic exercise, we're increasing the oxygen and the blood flow into our brain to help it function better. Exercise also releases endorphins to help increase our attention and our emotional regulation. So not only does getting increased oxygen to your brain help, but we're also specifically releasing chemicals and neurotransmitters in your brain that are going to just help you feel better in general. In addition to aerobic exercise, we also suggest doing some resistance training. So this is like lifting weights or doing anything where you're pushing and having to really use your muscles to help you get to the goal. I really encourage, as an occupational therapist, I always encourage strong weight training for your core. So I'm going to talk about some exercises for your core, but your core and your lug muscles, because these are what's going to help keep you on your feet, help you with your balance, and help you be as safe as possible. So with resistance training, we say to do that around 2 days a week. So if you're doing 30 minutes a day of aerobic exercise 5 days a week, then on the other 2, you can do resistance training. Or if you don't want to work out 5 days a week or 7 days a week, you can kind of mix that up and figure out the best option for you. But I really want you guys to take away that exercise is extremely important for your cognitive functioning and your health. So if we're thinking about aerobic exercise, how can we do that during the time of social distancing and with this COVID pandemic going on? I've listed out a couple different activities that I want you guys to just consider. And thinking about where we can exercise, if we can't go to the YMCA and we can't go to our gyms because they're all closed, I want you guys to think about going outside. Outside has some benefits of itself and being out in the sunshine and getting fresh air, but it's also a good, safe place to be away from germs because they don't travel as well outside as they do inside. So if you have the ability to get outside and do any of these exercises or activities, that's going to be ideal. So some of the exercises include walking and jogging, cycling or riding your bicycle if that's an option. Another great one as it starts to get warmer and you feel comfortable and safe doing that is going hiking. There's several different areas in our region that have great hiking trails, so exploring some of those would be a great option for aerobic exercise. Dancing is another great one, of course. Lawn care and gardening. If you're pushing a lawnmower or if you're raking a lot, these are good exercises for your aerobic intensity as well. Exercise videos of boxing and tennis. These are all other ideas that can really help strengthen your aerobic exercise activity. If we're thinking about resistance training, what can we do? Resistance bands. I hope that you guys have seen resistance bands, but they're just really stretchy, elastic. A lot of times they're latex, but they stretch and offer resistance. So if you've ever seen a physical therapist or an occupational therapist, they oftentimes give, it's called a TheraBand, and they're different colors, but they sell these bands at Walmart or Meijer, or I don't think they have them at Kroger, but a lot of different places will have resistance bands if you don't already have them. Some other options are hand weights or weight machines. If you don't have access to hand weights at your house, you can also use a can of vegetables or any kind of canned beans or anything like that will offer some extra weight. You can also lift bottles of water or maybe 2 at a time, and that's a nice way to also offer some weight. Body exercises are great to help offer resistance training. So push-ups, lunges, squats are an excellent one for core strengthening. There are some other things that like planks or laying on your back and touching your toes with your hands. There are different exercises that can really work that core. If you are to try these, I want you guys to remember to be safe. Getting up and down off the floor isn't always that easy. So you can also do these in your bed or standing in a standing position against the wall is another great option. Yoga and Tai Chi have some great options as far as resistance training and maintaining your balance. And again, going back to the gardening, if you're lifting dirt and sand and pushing flowers and shoveling and different things like that, that's going to offer you some options for resistance training. It's really important anytime you're doing any of these exercises to always stretch before and after you exercise. This is going to help with the muscle flexibility. It's going to help decrease any soreness that you have. And you're just going to reap the benefits throughout your entire body, not just with your cognition. In addition to exercise, I want you guys to think about ways to maintain socialization. Socialization really excites brain activity. We can see that people who socialize have an average of 70% less cognitive decline compared to those who are not socially active. 70%, that's a lot of cognitive decline. Not only do you have less cognitive decline, but you can actually also improve your cognitive functions by about the same amount percentage. So we're protecting against cognitive decline and we're improving cognitive function just by socializing. Social interaction promotes neural connections and activity in the brain. So it's not just using one part of your brain that you need to talk, but it's also using a part of your brain that you need to interact with other people and use empathy and understanding of emotion and visualizing how their words, what they're saying and things like that. And then you're also listening to what they say and you're connecting that to how it makes you feel and how your insights and perceptions feel. So we're not just targeting one area of the brain when we socialize, but we're really igniting the entire brain, and that really helps to maintain cognitive functions. In addition to socialization, it helps with emotional regulation. So we know that people who socialize more have increased happiness and decreased feelings of isolation, stress, anxiety, and depression. This is something that I really want you guys to think about right now, because as we're all locked away in our houses, and fortunately that's going to start to be lifted soon, and hopefully it will be able to be maintained, I want you guys to really think about ways that you can continue to be socially active to help avoid these feelings. In addition to the things that we just described, there's also some studies that show that socialization helps promote exercise. People who are social are more likely to exercise. And I just told you all the benefits of exercising. So how can we exercise during a time of staying socially distant? Just a couple ideas that will help you guys implement some of these approaches. Phone calls are always a great option, even if it's calling your friends or your family or your grandchildren or your parents. I've also had some time where I'm calling colleagues and I feel really validated because I'm still working and feeling connected to them. That's very helpful. Another option is the video call. So that's FaceTime and Skype and Zoom and GoToMeetings. There's all kinds of technology now that will allow you to see someone face to face while you talk to them. I like the idea of pen pals and letter writing as well. It's something that people in the more current digital technological generation don't do as much because we send text messages and emails a lot. But I really like the idea of writing letters and waiting for a letter to get there and then reading that handwritten letter is really important. And there is some research and evidence that shows that reading handwriting versus reading a computer screen or a tablet actually is processed in a different way in your brain. So I'm not saying one way is better than the other, but I am saying if we want to diversify the way that we're using our brain, having various options of reading different texts and communicating that way is really helpful. A couple other ideas are book clubs, so you can do those virtually now, or digital games. I know that some people like to play games with their family members who are across the country, or my husband likes to play digital games with me like Scrabble, and we're in the same room. So there are different options of using digital games and that technology. In addition to these, we can do online trainings and webinars. There's lots of free education out there right now, and lots of it has gone virtual. So diving into what you can find that way and tapping into the virtual support groups are going to be helpful as well. The third area that I'd like to talk about today is maintaining healthy eating. It's really important that we maintain a nutrient-dense diet because it increases the brain connectivity and how the brain works together. So if what we eat feeds our body, it's really important that we're eating strong nutrients to help us with our regulation of cognitive functions, with our behavior and our emotional regulation, those kinds of things. There is evidence in literature out there that shows that nutrition specifically improves cognitive performance and networking or communication within your brain and that efficiency. And it's related to and tied to attention and executive functioning. And there is some evidence that looks at intelligence as well, and having a more nutrient-rich diet can improve your intelligence. It can also prevent and reduce age-related brain atrophy, cognitive deficits, and improve your memory. So if you aren't currently thinking about a healthy diet or what you're eating is in terms of bringing in good foods, I really want you guys to start thinking about ways that we can improve how we bring in nutrients. I know right now, being home, I have a tendency to get more of the junk food kinds of things and not so much having a diverse diet. I was laughing to my husband the other day and saying that my 2-year-old actually had a better diet when I was sending her to daycare because I was planning her meals and counting out her servings of fruits and vegetables as I sent her to daycare. And now we're at home and we eat Teddy Grahams throughout the day and popsicles after every meal. So I think that it's easy right now during this time of social isolation and just being locked down to your homes to not stay in that healthy routine of eating, but it's really important that we do so. When we're looking at how to maintain a healthy diet, A Mediterranean style diet is ideal for cognitive function. So the Mediterranean style diet it dictates how many servings, or projects or estimates how many servings of each category you should need per day, per week, and per month. The focus is on whole grains and vegetables, especially leafy greens. The leafy greens includes vegetables like spinach, kale, collards, and lettuce. These are specifically known to improve cognition. You're also going to have a high intake of fruits, legumes, herbs and spices, nuts. The Mediterranean style diet uses extra virgin olive oil as you're cooking vegetables or meats or anything like that. So you're not necessarily using vegetable oil or canola oil or other kinds of oils, but the olive oil specifically. There's a high intake of fish and seafood that has a rich or dense amount of omega-3 fatty acids. The omega-3s are very beneficial as well. It also has low-fat dairy, and in moderation, you can have alcohol consumption within the Mediterranean-style diet. There are lots of different protocols and regimens out there looking at the Mediterranean-style diet, so I would encourage you to Google that if you're unfamiliar with it, and it might offer a little bit more direction in how to incorporate some of those into your daily routine. So the fourth topic that I want to talk about is sleep. Sleep time is crucial for cleansing and rejuvenation of your brain. So it's not just how long you sleep or when you sleep or things like that, but it's actually sustained sleep promotes healthy cognition. So sustained sleep has to deal with, I fall asleep and I'm able to sleep for 6 to 8 hours without a huge interruption. So I don't wake up at 2 o'clock and then get on my phone for 2 hours and then fall back asleep. That's not the kind of sleep that we're talking about. We're talking about when you have these solid, long blocks of sleep that are really rejuvenating for the brain. We know that sleep is crucial for learning and memory. It's a time when things become kind of imprinted into your brain, and you're more apt to have improved memory and able to learn new concepts if you have a strong sleep pattern. Sleep actually offers ability to increase the amount of cleansing of the toxins out of your brain. This is a newer area of research, and it's kind of cutting edge right now, but it's showing that people are less likely to have cognitive impairment if they have really strong sleep throughout their lives. And they're starting to look at what kind of toxins are removed from the brain and how does that regulate in the brain for people who sleep versus those who don't have strong sleeping patterns. In addition, sleep just protects against emotional and behavioral disturbance as well. I know that anytime myself or my daughter or any of the patients that I used to work with, if they didn't sleep very well, you're just kind of irritable and cranky, and you don't really function that well. So at a time when we're all kind of heightened with anxiety and stress and worry, it's really important that we maintain these really strong sleep routines to help our brain function and have the best cognitive reserves possible. So what can we do to help promote our sleep? There are several different things that we can do. Routine is crucial for sleep. So when I say routine, I mean you kind of go to bed at the same time. That's really important. You have the same setup of getting your PJs on and getting your clock set up, or whatever you need to have set up if it's on your nightstand, having your covers kind of set in the same way. Even things as minuscule as some people sleep better with several different blankets or a really heavy blanket, and some people sleep better with just a sheet, and some people sleep the best without anything at all. And if you are to mix up that routine, it's going to kind of change the way that that your body anticipates sleep. So maintaining the environment of your bed and your covers and your routine of getting ready for bed, all of the things that we have to do to prepare our brain to say, hey, I'm about to go lay in bed, it's time to sleep. It's just crucial to maintain that routine. Increasing sunlight exposure during the day is also going to help you have a deeper sleep at night. I know that from working with people in institutions and hospitals and things like that, especially if you do have cognitive impairment, the days and nights can get mixed up. And some people will start to sleep more during the day and they will sleep less at night. So an option or an idea to combat that is to increase the amount of sunlight and day exposure that you have. And if you can't, just get outside, making sure that the windows are open pretty much as soon as you wake up until the time that you're ready to go to bed. That's going to help with the circadian rhythms in your brain as well. There is some evidence that shows that if we're limiting screen time of about an hour before bedtime, it will help our brain fall into a deeper sleep faster. So that's, television or playing on your phone or tablets or anything like that. So there's different types of light waves that are broadcasted. I just forgot the word, but that are emitted. There we go, from the technology and these devices. So those light waves, like the blue light, can actually excite the brain more so, and we want more of a yellow tone with our light before bed. I mentioned having consistent routines or consistent bedtimes within your routine. That's really important. Your body is going to rest the most if you're sleeping in a quiet, dark, cool space. Limiting alcohol consumption and caffeine. Avoid caffeine after 12 p.m. These are just some ideas to help your body prepare to sleep at that time that you're ready to go to bed. I also just want to point out that it's really important to talk to your medical provider if you are having a significant trouble falling or the inability to fall asleep, or if you're snoring really loud, or if your partner is saying that they are not sleeping very well because you're snoring. These might indicate some more serious medical conditions like insomnia or sleep apnea. And if you can get these addressed with your medical provider, if they are a problem, you're going to have improved sleep with that as well. The last idea or topic that I want to share with you guys today is this idea of novel or new experiences and how that changes the brain. Over the past 10 or 15 years, we've built this concept around neuroplasticity and how the brain can change. And we've specifically identified that neuroplasticity can happen, or new growth of your cells and development of connections in the brain can happen up until right before you die. So if we're not harnessing this idea of neuroplasticity and growth of the brain as we age and in a time when we're kind of locked down in our homes, then we're gonna lose some potential that our amazing brains have to offer us. The more novel or new, novel and new are kind of synonymous, but the more new experiences that you can have, regardless of your age, is really going to change the connection in your brain. So I'm going to give some examples of this in just a second. So I just want you guys to kind of think about how can you include new experiences that you really haven't had right now in a time of social or isolating yourself in your homes, and a time of just kind of protecting with social distancing, things like that. In addition to these new experiences, an enriched lifestyle from the time that you're born up until the age that you are now, that's filled with new experiences, builds depth and layers to the brain structures and can ward off cognitive decline. This is called cognitive reserve. So if you haven't heard about cognitive reserve, it's another cool term that you might want to Google. And it talks about the density of our brain and the connectivity and how much of the brain that we can use. And as we do get older, and as we do have oncoming or underlying cognitive impairment, the more dense our brain is with these new experiences in cognitive reserve, the better able our body or our brain is to delay the impact of that cognitive impairment. So that is saying, an example, if you have one person who has a rather mundane life, who has a very low education, and who doesn't really have any new or novel experiences, they're really set in their routine and they don't travel, they might have an onset of dementia. And then you have someone else who is highly educated and who has world traveled and has done all of these new experiences and has this really dense cognitive reserve, and they have an onset of dementia. You are going to see the impacts in the person who has a lower cognitive reserve sooner then you will see the impacts of dementia on people who have this really dense cognitive reserve, or lives that are enriched and filled with new experiences. And cognitive reserve builds up over the lifespan, but I'm a huge believer in neuroplasticity and that it's never too late to start having new experiences and to start building that cognitive reserve. And other ideas with building that neuroplasticity and new experiences is practicing challenging problem-solving tasks that build executive functions. And executive functions are like attention and problem-solving, being able to anticipate things and having some flexibility in your thinking. As we really push ourselves to think about critically different problems, that can really help change our brain as well and build our brain. Some ideas that if you like to play the cognitive games like Sudoku, things like that, as long as they're a challenge, those can really help your brain. As well as just thinking about everyday problems like, well, I want to cook spaghetti for dinner tonight. What is it exactly the ingredients that I'm going to have, and how much is that going to cost, and how can I prepare my routine of going to the grocery store with wearing a mask and different other ideas. All of this scenario is problem solving, and it's ways that my brain is going to be excited and have to think about how to solve these problems. Some additional ideas to explore places and activities right now during this time of the COVID pandemic are to travel outside of the routine routes. So I know how to get to the bank and how to get to the grocery store and how to get to work. Those are just in my routines. But if I start to travel beyond that, it's something new for me, and it's something that I don't experience every day, and that's going to be exciting for my brain, and it's going to help my brain learn more. If you like to take day trips, you may not be able to get out as well, or go to different parks and different outdoor places that you don't typically go. That's a great option for exploring new places and something new to do. Learning new skills is another great option for expanding your cognitive reserve and building neuroplasticity to help right now. So learning a new musical instrument, or learning how to juggle, learning a new language or digital design, or learning a new dance technique, any ways that you can learn something new that you don't typically do really builds the brain, and it builds on how the brain connects with and talks to itself. Another fun activity that I like to suggest sometimes are non-dominant hand exercises. Have you ever tried to write with your non-dominant hand? That's tricky. Or feed yourself. Or what if you try to tie your shoes or button your shirt in an opposite way that you typically do? Just start thinking about, hey, if I'm not using my dominant hand, what if I offer my non-dominant hand first, to see how that kind of works through my brain and how I really have to think about those different actions and motor planning. A couple other things to help with creativity are to read fiction books and to create artwork. We know that these are really good for exciting the brain. It helps with relaxation, and it helps you just kind of pay attention and to think more clearly. So I've offered you guys 5 different areas that I want you guys to pay attention to help keep your mind sharp. And I'm going to kind of recap some of the main takeaway points. There are lots of different ways right now, specifically during COVID-19, to help. So 150 minutes of exercise and 2 days a week of strengthening per week is going to help with the brain function and help your body stay strong. Maintaining social engagement at a distance, at a minimum weekly. So at least once a week you are calling someone and talking to them and engaging in social interaction at least once. But ideally you're doing it daily, if not several times a day. Exploring a Mediterranean style diet, or at least something that's really rich in different nutrients, is going to be helpful. Engaging in healthy routines for sustained sleep. Remember, it's not just a matter of going to sleep, but sustaining or maintaining that sleep throughout the night is going to be really helpful for you. And trying something new, something that challenges learning or new environments, something that's going to be exciting and make your brain think in a way that it doesn't think every single day.